They are liars.
When I go to sleep at night, I see it all over, and I cry.
Straight-faced con artists.
And he's just very friendly neighbor. You know, you couldn't ask for a nicer guy.
Cheaters.
I'm not guilty. I didn't do those things.
Scheming killers. They prey on their families, their colleagues, the weak. What drives these manipulative minds? And who is most evil? A scale exists to measure the darkest corners of human behavior. From impulse killings to madness-fueled violence. Calculated acts of cruelty, torture, and brutality. Forensics now reveals those among us who are most evil. Scheming killers. They weave webs of lies and deceive their victims. In Oregon, Diane Downs blames a hitchhiker for shooting her 3 children. A surviving daughter testifies her mother pulled the trigger. Dr. Michael Swango practices a lethal brand of medicine. It is believed he poisoned as many as 60 people, earning him the name Dr. Death. And in Kansas, John Edward Robinson appears to be a devoted family man, but he is linked to the deaths of 8 women. Their bodies are found in barrels outside his farmhouse. Many killers manipulate and scheme, but what makes the deceit of some more lethal than others? Now there is a scale with 22 levels. It decodes a killer's motive, method, and mind. The more heinous the crime and the more rational the perpetrator, the higher the criminal is placed on the scale. Creator of the scale, forensic psychiatrist Dr. Michael Stone. Dr. Stone explores these killers' pasts and crimes to understand what motivates them to kill, and uses his scale to navigate the minds of the most wicked killers.
Scheming killers are methodical, deceptive, and opportunistic. What makes them different from other serial killers is that they invest a great deal of thought and planning before they strike. Their stories are filled with forgery, fraud, and deceit. What drives them most? An insatiable need for power and notoriety.
How far would someone go to regain control? 1983, Portland, Oregon. Diane Downs, 27-year-old mother of 3, rushes into the emergency room. She and her children have been shot. She claims that a hitchhiker attacked them on a country road.
He swung himself around and fired twice. One caught him in the arm, the other one went off somewhere.
A bullet has pierced Downs' left arm. 2 of her children are critically wounded. Her 7-year-old daughter is pronounced dead on arrival.
Somebody took her, but we have to get better.
The community is horrified by the attack. but police are suspicious. Downs' story is inconsistent with ballistics tests that indicate the gun was most likely fired from the driver's seat. They believe she is lying, but don't have enough hard evidence to charge her. Could this seemingly picture-perfect mother have gunned down her own children and then calmly told the public they were attacked by a stranger?
To be convincing liars, criminals must create the appearance that they could not have done anything wrong. Downs' sympathetic mother persona certainly plays to that. For almost all people who use deception in their lives, the roots of this willingness to scheme and manipulate develop at an early age.
1967. Phoenix, Arizona. Diane Downs is the eldest of 4 children. She is an outstanding student, an avid reader, but Downs is a loner, filled with sadness. According to Downs, her mother neglects the children, and her father begins molesting her at age 12. Downs begins to despise herself and believes she is ugly. She hates the way she looks, the way she feels. At age 13, she attempts suicide. In high school, Downs begins to grow into her beauty, gains attention from boys. This boosts her confidence. She dreams about raising a family and then falls in love with a classmate. They marry when she turns 18. Shortly after the wedding, Downs' husband becomes absent. He works long hours and has an affair. Downs is devastated. Once again, she believes herself to be ugly, undesirable. She becomes desperate to be attractive to men.
Her husband's affair left Downs feeling unwanted. This is clearly a turning point in her life. She needs to feel the center of attention, attractive, loved. This need causes her to take drastic steps.
Downs begins her own series of infidelities. As an employee at the post office, she is surrounded by men and has affairs with some of them. But she still yearns for her husband's attention. She has 3 children, hoping they'll help save the marriage. But they don't. She and her husband split. Raising the children alone poses hardships for Downs. She resents the kids, ignores them, and believes they drive men away. Downs eventually starts an affair with a married co-worker, Robert Knickerbocker, whom she calls Nick. She grows obsessed with him and dreams of a future together. But Nick isn't interested in a ready-made family. He returns to his wife. Downs continues to court him through hundreds of letters.
Dearest Nick, I miss you. I love you so very much. And I know you should be with me, yet you aren't. One day you will come around.
Downs secretly devises a deadly scheme to win back her lover, even if it costs her her own children. Portland, Oregon, 1983. Single mother Diane Downs is desperate to win back her lover, who has returned to his wife. She believes the one thing standing between her and true love is her children.
Downs is a woman who had experienced many bad relationships with men. In her mind, winning back her lover would bring an end to all that frustration and unhappiness. She was willing to do anything to win his love.
Downs executes a master plan to win her lover back.
The kids and I like to go out and just drive around, look at the river, look at the trees. And the kids got tired, so I decided to just head on home. But I saw a road I hadn't been on before. We like to take back roads. And there was a guy standing in the road, flagging me down, so I stopped.
According to Downs, on a backcountry road, a hitchhiker demands her car and then shoots at her and her children. She manages to break free and drive to the hospital.
I kept talking to them. Danny cried the whole way. I could hear him softly just moaning, and Christy was dying. God, all the blood, all the pain.
Doctors cannot save 7-year-old Cheryl. 3-year-old Danny is paralyzed from his waist down. And Christy, age 8, is in shock and cannot speak. Downs has been grazed in the arm. As she waits in the hospital, Downs doesn't call the children's father. Instead, she dials her estranged lover, Nick. When doctors inform her that 2 of her children will survive, she immediately asks, "The bullet missed Danny's heart?" In the weeks after the attack, Downs portrays herself as a victim in the press.
I'm afraid of the dark. I have nightmares at night, and I cry.
But to detectives, her story doesn't add up. Ballistics tests indicate the shooter had to be in the driver's seat. Police still don't have the weapon or any witnesses. Their only hope? Downs's surviving children will one day be able to recount the details of that night. To police, Downs is a liar trying to get away with murder. But to the public, she is a scared mother.
Anything to help out and find the guy that shot my kids.
Without enough evidence to prosecute her, Downs remains free.
She is an accomplished liar. She thought through every step and buried all the evidence. She was extremely clever, used her charm to her advantage. Her stoicism and all-American image was very deceptive and hard to crack.
Police eventually named Downs a person of interest in the case. She loses custody of her children and is barred from seeing them. But she sneaks a visit with her daughter Christy. The girl is shaken by her mother's presence. Downs paints a different picture.
She doesn't remember anything. There are many times she said, "Mommy, what happened to your arm? What happened to me? What happened?"
9 months after the shooting, there is a break in the case. Downs' daughter finally talks about the murder. Christy identifies her mother as the shooter. Downs is arrested. Evidence at the trial suggests she orchestrated and executed the shooting alone. The hitchhiker never existed. It was all a lie to try to win back her ex-lover, Nick. The jury finds her guilty and sentences her to life. To this day, Downs proclaims her innocence. Weighing the elements of her case, Dr. Stone places Diane Downs on his scale of evil.
Downs is clearly a conniving, vindictive woman. Granted, the abuse she endured as a child greatly damaged her sense of self and her notions of men in power, but these experiences contributed to her psychopathy. Her cold-blooded and scheming nature puts her in a category where the majority of killers reside, level 14. These killers are ruthlessly self-centered and calculating.
How did Downs successfully convince the public that she was the victim? What can science reveal about the nature of lying? Dr. Mark Frank is a social psychologist at the University of New York at Buffalo. He believes the clues to lying can be seen right in front of us. Dr. Frank theorizes that the human face naturally reveals emotions and intent that liars attempt to hide. Unconscious facial expressions and minute muscular reflexes that give away even the most skilled liars. He has devised a series of tools to analyze conscious and unconscious facial cues that suggest deceit.
The goal in examining these facial expressions is to really understand what happens when people lie. What things do they do? What things do they not do?
In one study, subjects are asked to steal a check and lie about it to a police officer.
Describe your actions while you were in the conference room and associated areas.
I filled out some surveys and some paperwork.
During the interrogation, 3 video cameras record their behavior from different angles.
We look at the behaviors of people, what's going on in their faces, what's going on in their bodies. We recorded their voices, what's going on in their voices.
I have never taken anything in my life before. I don't have to check.
From these interviews, Dr. Frank has identified and isolated 44 tiny facial movements, like a twitch, blink, or grimace that unconsciously implies lying.
What would you say if I determined you're lying to me about the check?
Most movements are so slight,
I would tell you that you're mistaken.
they take only a fraction of a second.
Because I didn't take the check.
The act of lying can generate different emotions: guilt, fear, enjoyment, happiness, distress, disgust. And so to be able to see these things, these are involuntary behaviors. That's the thing that makes them interesting.
What can these facial cues reveal about how Diane Downs deceived investigators for so long?
We were just out, I guess, sightseeing, I guess you'd say.
Can Dr. Frank determine when she was lying?
So I decided to just head on home.
He examines footage of her recorded shortly after the shooting.
But I saw a road I hadn't been on before. We like to take back roads.
Right before she says to take back roads, she leaks a little bit of fear at this point. And you'll see it in the lower part of the face, right here. It's called the risorius muscle. Risorius muscle runs off the face this way. And it's part of the emotion expression of fear.
And there was a guy standing in the road, flagging me down, so I stopped.
We find when people are trying to control and manage their emotions, you often don't see the full emotional expression. You'll see fragments of it. So in this situation, you see her saying, we just stopped, but then you're getting a very subtle head shake going through here, left, right, left. And so that's what she's saying verbally, but non-verbally, she's sending a slightly different message. She's sort of saying no, which almost contradicts what she's saying verbally.
Science is helping to reveal the deceptive minds common in murderous schemers. Schemers like Dr. Michael Swango, who spent years preying on the lives he swore to protect. Dr. Michael Stone is exploring scheming killers. Murderers who artfully manipulate our confidence. Sometimes these killers present themselves as figures whose goal is to protect and keep us from harm, like Dr. Michael Swango.
We had an error in judgment that was fostered by a very clever, we think, very deranged young man.
A lethal liar who comes to be known as Dr. Death. 1993. Michael Swango is a resident at a hospital in New York State. Over the course of a few weeks, several of his patients die mysteriously of heart and organ failure. An investigation reveals they have been poisoned. Before Swango can be questioned, he disappears. Over 4 years, Swango practices his lethal brand of medicine in 3 hospitals on 2 continents. He kills at least 4 and is suspected in as many as 60 mysterious deaths. Swango makes victims out of the very people that trusted him with their health.
Instead of using his medical license to become a healer, Swango embarked upon a career as a killer.
Swango committed the ultimate act of betrayal against the public. He harmed and murdered the very people he had sworn to protect. His crimes are of an incredibly heinous nature because he misused the public's trust.
1967, Quincy, Illinois. Swango is the middle child of 3. He is a gifted musician, star athlete, and merit scholar. His father is a decorated army officer, and his family moves frequently. Swango's dad returns from Vietnam an alcoholic. The boy escapes his father's torment by focusing on his studies and an obsessive hobby. He clips articles on death and disasters and pastes them in scrapbooks. This morbid fixation continues through adulthood and escalates to mass murders. Young Swango graduates valedictorian in high school, serves in the Marines, and eventually graduates summa cum laude from Quincy College. In 1979, he enters Southern Illinois Medical School with unwavering enthusiasm to become a doctor. Despite long hours, he is always energetic, even manic about staying fit and active. His favorite rotation is in the ER, a front-row view of the most gruesome cases. His colleagues and advisors find his zeal for blood disturbing.
Swango seems to have had a bizarre attraction to death and suffering. In a sense, this fascination was the exact opposite of what one would expect from a doctor. And ultimately, his medical training was preparing him to understand the human body, its biology and physiology, in order to take away people's lives.
1984, Swango completes his residency. His advisors question his ability when several patients die under his care. He begins work as a paramedic while waiting for his medical license. Within weeks of his arrival, 6 co-workers fall violently ill, but Swango is unaffected. An investigation reveals that Swango laced snacks he brought to work with poison. Swango is arrested and found guilty of assault, but denies any wrongdoing.
I'm innocent. I could never do any of the things that have been alleged that I've done. I think my whole life speaks for that. I'm not guilty. I didn't do those things.
Clearly, Swango is articulate, intelligent, and convincing. And all these qualities made him an unsuspecting and clever killer. But his track record reveals he yearned to see people suffer and die. And he knew his position as a trusted physician would put him in a position of unquestioned authority, making it easier to execute his crimes.
After serving 2 years in prison, Swango is released. He eventually lands a job as a doctor at a hospital in New York. A background check doesn't uncover his criminal past. On his first day on the job, a patient with a mild case of pneumonia mysteriously dies of a heart attack. A string of other patients die. Swango is assigned to all of them. Suspicions are raised, and an investigation begins. He is fired after officials learn about the real reason for his imprisonment. Swango flees to Zimbabwe and begins work as a doctor at a hospital there. Under his care, an untold number of patients die mysteriously. 1997. After 4 years as a fugitive, FBI agents apprehend Swango at a Chicago airport. At the time of capture, he is suspected in 60 poisoning deaths in the U.S. and Africa. The press dub him Dr. Death. Swango eventually confesses to 4 murders and is sentenced to life in prison. Evaluating Swango's case, Dr. Stone places him on the scale of evil.
Swango found the killing exhilarating. He was driven by the need to gain power and control over other people's lives. Even more, as a physician, a person of high public trust, he grossly betrayed the Hippocratic oath to do no harm. This adds to his evil. Because of his multiple murders and abuse of power, I place him at level 16, a place reserved for psychopaths committing multiple vicious acts.
Schemers use their intelligence to outwit the public. What can science tell us about the brains of masterful criminals?
Did you shoot that gun today?
Scheming killers. They are vicious, brutal, and often intelligent. Their greatest skill is the ability to lie, manipulating unsuspecting victims into deadly scenarios. These killers can be found everywhere. Southern California, 1970s. Randy Kraft is a successful computer programmer and salesman. To him, killing is a game. Kraft travels along the California coast selling software. In each location, he picks up men at gay bars. He presents himself as a successful businessman and lures his targets in with charm and promises of alcohol and drugs. Once alone, Kraft ties them up, burns their eyelids with cigarettes, and cuts off body parts. He is never a suspect in any crime. In 1984, after 12 years of murder, Kraft is pulled over for erratic driving. Police find a victim in the car. He is eventually convicted of 16 homicides, only a fraction of the murders he is suspected of. Sacramento, California, 1988. 60-year-old Dorothea Puente is considered a leader of her community. She runs a boarding house for the sick and elderly, donates to charity, and tells people around town she is a doctor and a lawyer.
This gal is a nice lady. She's helped people out. She's taken them in.
A missing person report for one of her residents brings detectives to Puente's house. They make a grisly discovery in the garden. A shallow grave is found just beneath a peach tree. Over the next 2 days, 6 more bodies are unearthed. Puente poisoned 7 residents and cashed their Social Security checks for her own profit.
I have not killed anyone. The checks I cashed, yes.
In 1993, Dorothea is sentenced to life in prison. How could an unassuming person like Dorothea Puente carry out such a brutal scheme without detection? How are criminals able to lie so convincingly? Why are schemers such skillful killers? How do they outwit their victims and the public? Are they more intelligent than the rest of us? Science offers some clues by exploring what happens in the brains of people who lie. Dr. Scott Farrow at Temple University in Philadelphia is mapping the brain activity of liars. His goal is to determine whether the brain functions differently when people are lying versus telling the truth. He recruits 11 test subjects for an experiment.
As part of our test today, I'm going to ask you to shoot a gun, left hand over right hand. You're going to squeeze the trigger.
6 subjects are asked to shoot a blank pistol.
Will do.
And imagine that they are in a crime scene. The other 5 do not shoot the gun.
We needed a real-life scenario. We had to have some type of crime-like episode that would create memory, that would have a tactile sense, that you would feel a recoil, you would smell the gunpowder. And then we wanted to treat those as a true guilty subject that would be put through a very lifelike scenario of interrogation.
Afterwards, all the subjects are placed into an fMRI so their brains can be scanned. Each is interviewed about the test. The non-shooters are asked to answer truthfully. Those who shot the gun are told to lie.
You're going to hear a series of questions. The goal is to try to deceive. Your goal is to lie. Is today Tuesday? No. Did Dr. Farrow ask you to shoot that gun today? No. Did you shoot that gun today? No.
The results reveal that liars triggered function in 14 parts of the brain, twice the number of that of truth tellers.
The red represents, again, the exact areas that are activating within different parts of the brain in the group that lied.
Among liars, the brain regions activated involve emotions and high-order functions such as inhibition, memory, and planning. The brains of liars are working harder, but they are also seeing greater activity in the most high-functioning parts of the brain. In a sense, when schemers are lying, they could be smarter than people whose brains are not putting out that same effort.
Part of a scheming mind has to have more brain activation. There's so much more thought that's being put into play. When one is deceiving, you have to actually block a natural response. You also have to have a blockage of an emotional response. So the guilt, the anxiety, the frustration, the apprehension, all that has to be blocked. The memory responses in the brain also have to be blocked because you clearly have a memory of that crime that was committed. When you're telling the truth, it's relatively easy. There's no memory, there's no deceit.
Could the increased activity in brains of lying schemers give them an advantage over other people? Do their higher functioning brains enable them to outsmart their victims? Dr. Farrow's research is a first step in being able to reveal when people are lying. In the future, police may be able to employ similar tools to identify and catch schemers. Next on Most Evil, a killer uses his intelligence to mislead an entire town. June 2000, Kansas City, Kansas. John Edward Robinson is a pillar of his community. He is the father of 4, a respected business entrepreneur and leader of the local Boy Scout troop. But this seemingly idyllic life is just a facade. Behind closed doors, Robinson is a ruthless predator. He uses the internet to bilk unsuspecting investors out of hundreds of thousands of dollars with phony business schemes, and lures unsuspecting women with promises of employment before raping and killing them. When police finally catch up to Robinson, they find 8 bodies decomposing in barrels on his farm. This double life stuns neighbors.
Still going to take a long time for me to realize that he did something like this.
John Robinson was an extraordinary con man. Not only did he fool strangers whom he met through the internet, but even within his own community and family, there seemed to be very little indication that this man was capable of such brutality. These skills of manipulation would have been developed very early in life.
Chicago, 1959. Robinson is raised in a blue-collar, crime-ridden neighborhood. He shows the potential to escape the mean streets. He is accepted to a prestigious high school and becomes an Eagle Scout. Despite his average grades, Robinson is confident and arrogant. He dreams of becoming a doctor, but never finishes college. Instead, Robinson turns to his natural talents, lying, deception, and fraud, to further his career. In 1963, Robinson falsifies credentials to land a job as an X-ray technician. By day, he passes himself off as a skilled medical assistant. During off hours, he assumes false identities, creates fake business schemes, and ropes in investors. He takes their money for products, real estate developments, and companies that do not exist. He avoids suspicion by leading a seemingly mundane life.
One of the key elements in being a schemer is to convince people that you could not possibly be involved in anything so amoral and subversive. And that was the key to Robinson's ability to get away with it for so long. His talent for keeping up appearances, for behaving as though he had done no wrong, created the illusion that he hadn't.
Able to scam investors out of thousands, Robinson begins to focus on individual victims. He forges documents to promote bogus farming and computer companies, then posts job ads searching for employees. He targets women in need of money and goes to new lengths to get a financial reward. In one case, he promises a 19-year-old single mother a job and childcare. Instead, when she arrives, he kills her and sells her baby. The deal earns him $5,500. But Robinson's murderous streak is halted when he's arrested for business fraud. The murder, however, goes undetected. 1993. After 6 years in prison, he is released and quickly resumes his life of crime. This time, he is even more aggressive. His primary resource? The internet. He hooks in women through sex chat rooms. Dozens of women fall for him, and some move to be with him. They all have one thing in common. They receive financial benefits like alimony, disability checks, or Social Security. One by one, each woman goes missing, but their checks continue to arrive and are cashed regularly. Robinson rents apartments and hotel rooms in the same town as his family, where he keeps his future victims for days at a time. His last victim is a young nurse. Robinson offers a job of caring for his father. She takes the job and is not heard from for weeks. To ease suspicions, he calls her mother, saying her daughter had quit and run away. But for perhaps the first time, Robinson's lies are not convincing. The parents notify police, and Robinson is put under surveillance. Police eventually link him to her disappearance. They conduct a search of his property and discover personal effects of several people who have been reported missing. But the most revealing and horrific evidence is found in barrels near his house. They contain 8 decomposing bodies. Throughout his trial, details of the horrendous crimes emerge. Robinson raped and tortured his victims, ultimately beating them to death. He is given the death penalty, and as of 2007, awaits execution.
Robinson's motivation was not only financial, but emotional. He took pleasure in torturing and brutalizing his victims, and went to great pains to cover up their disappearances. For these reasons, he reaches the highest level of my scale, a level 22, the place reserved for the most brutal criminals who torture and inflict tremendous suffering on their victims.
Next on Most Evil, Dr. Stone tries to unlock the secrets of schemers by going face to face with a killer.
When I asked her to get up off the table and let's go home, and she would never move.
Scheming killers are strategic, calculating, and wicked. They spin complex webs of lies and project ordinary appearances to conceal their deadly intentions. These tactics make identifying the truth much more difficult. Aiming to understand how scheming minds work, Dr. Stone investigates the case of Martha Ann Johnson. 1980s, Georgia. During the course of 7 years, 4 of Martha Ann Johnson's young children die. Both police and the media deemed the deaths suspicious. Ultimately, no charges are filed in 3 of the cases. But in 1989, prosecutors charged Johnson with murder for suffocating her daughter Jenny Ann when her husband Earl walks out on them. Her motive? To win her husband's sympathy so he'd come back. Johnson quickly confesses to the crime.
Never figured it out, but just come back. I didn't mean to. I guess it was just an anger rage. I was just mad. It hurt.
Did you take her life because you were mad at her?
In 1990, the court finds Johnson guilty of murder. She is sentenced to life in prison. But shortly after her conviction, Johnson contends that she is innocent. She claims that she confessed only in the wake of the tragedy of losing her daughter. Dr. Stone goes to Pulaski Prison in Georgia to meet Johnson face to face as part of his investigation into schemers.
Johnson claimed her daughter Jenny Ann died of natural causes. She blames her death on bad luck. Hers is a troubling story, and my goal is to find out more about her personal story to understand her motive and whether she truly schemed in a lethal manner to try to save her marriage. So what do you think was the point of their fingering you?
They said it was because it was to bring my husband back, but that's not true at all. Because sometimes I was glad that they was gone, because I didn't have to worry about being beat no more.
So there's some kind of a gulf between your view of all that happened and the view of the outside world, what happened. Now that's the part that's kind of strange. You're aware of that, I guess.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Because they don't believe it.
Yeah.
Just like I can't say if you believe me or not.
Right.
I can just explain to you and tell you what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And what I know that happened. And that's up to you if you believe me or not. But I didn't do anything to my children. I try to be good to them and try to help them.
Johnson kept evading my questions, so I turned the conversation to her life with Jenny Ann, whose father was Martha's first husband. My objective is to examine her relationship with men and to see if she, like Diana Downs, was willing to sacrifice a child to ensure a relationship with a man.
With Jenny Ann, it was okay for about a year, and then it started going downhill after that.
In what way?
When I didn't know what he wanted me to do, I got beat. He never would hit me anywhere else except my face. Because he said if he couldn't have me, nobody else was going to have me either. He wanted to make me look bad.
So he tried to make you ugly in a way so you'd be his exclusive possession.
Yes, sir. Then I found out that he was running around on me. I caught him one time.
Johnson and her first husband divorce, and she takes custody of Jenny Ann. 4 years later, Johnson is remarried to her fourth husband, Earl. It becomes a volatile relationship, and he repeatedly walks out on her. It's during one such instance that Jenny Ann dies. Dr. Stone presses Johnson again about Jenny Ann's death.
Earl had left us again, put it that way. Jenny Ann was in a bed. I was watching her, and when I got up to wake her up, to change her, she had blood coming from her mouth and her nose. I started screaming, called the paramedics. They took her to the hospital. When I got to the hospital, she was already dead. I asked to see her, and they took me to the room where she was at where I could see her. And I asked her to get up off the table and let's go home. And she would never move.
I think there are parts of the truth that you yourself don't know.
No, I don't. I just know what happened and what I did that I thought was right.
As I leave, I'm still unsure if Martha Ann Johnson believes her own story or not. But she has been found guilty of murder, and I have no doubt that she is guilty. Her signs of distress seem convincing enough. Her outbursts carry the same powerful conviction as that of people who have truly suffered and lost. Schemers can fool us so easily, and that is what makes schemers so dangerous. Given the many questions surrounding her case, I put Martha Ann Johnson lower on the scale, at level 5, a place reserved for traumatic, desperate persons who kill impulsively and without much foresight.
Scheming killers. Their crimes are filled with fraud, deceit, and death. Many lead double lives and appear harmless. But in actuality, they are plotting deadly crimes, preparing to strike. Dr. Stone will continue to search out those among us who are schemers in his quest to understand who is most evil.
He's a complete narcissist, and he wasn't going to let another man have her.
She wanted to be with someone that had money. That was her main motivator in life, money.
We know that the last person that she talked to was her mother at 8:30 on the 23rd. The timeline begins there.
We have rules, and the rules require evidence to prove a case beyond a reasonable doubt.